Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Vince from Crushing Strength Fitness and MMA. I wanted to start a quick series tonight talking about the main lifts in my program and in most programs, the big staple lifts, and just kind of talk about my experience with them, talk about the form, safety of it, etc., and just kind of run through all the main lifts and just have a good conversation about it. So, just starting off here with the bench press. I had started the video and I was going to do all the lifts in one, but then when I realized how long that those topics could go on for, I think it'd be better if we just separate this into a few part series. So with that being said, bench press video starting soon, and let me know what you think. Just starting here, just my experience with it. I feel like it took a lot of time to really get fully acclimated to the form of it, just down to the smaller details. I feel like leg drive is something that happens more naturally than it's portrayed to be. There's a lot of videos on leg drive. Just as a quick little tidbit for that, it's less of pushing into the ground, and it was described early on for me as pushing yourself away, like almost pushing yourself back. Like if the bench were to be mobile, like you would be pushing yourself backwards. And again, it just felt like when I was trying too hard on it early on, it just kind of got confusing, and it felt like I didn't really need it early on at first. That I was fine just thinking about it less. And when I think about it less now, I notice that it's usually even better. And even if you can't get a leg drive down fully, I mean, hey, it just means that your chest, triceps, and shoulders are working that much harder. Which could be wrong? What could be wrong with that, right? And when it comes to the bench press, I know usually there's some kind of complicated thoughts of, oh, is it actually good for your chest? Is it no, push-ups off of a box are better, and ring push-ups are superior to it and stuff. Let's just keep it simple here. Bench press has worked for however many years now. Would still be used and talked about today if it didn't. And when it comes to range of motion, because that's another thing that's talked about a lot when it comes to bench pressing, there's ways to give yourself more range of motion. And sometimes you have to think less of range of motion as a whole and range of motion for the active muscle. So on a Romanian deadlift, for example, kind of crouching over and getting your hands close to your toes may be more range of motion on paper, but is it productive? Probably not. Is it going to injure you down the line? Maybe. Just because if your target is the hamstrings and you don't want to overload your lower back too much, why go that deep then? When sometimes it's an inherent risk, especially if you don't train in that range often and you never work up to it. It's the same with a bench press. Usually range of motion problems are less to do with, how deep the bar is getting and stuff like that, and more of where is the positioning at. When you start benching, are you like caved in like this, or do you have an arch going? Are you trying to open that chest up and press like this, or are you here? Because if you're in that second scenario, a lot of times, yeah, you're getting more range of motion, but you're not exactly targeting the chest to its maximum. Now again, these little things, especially when you're a beginner, probably won't be noticeable. It's when you start getting past that beginner stage that you notice those little problems. And that was a big thing for me learning how to get a proper arch going and understanding how to open the chest up so that it's ready to be used on the lift. Because I could have a shorter range of motion with an arch and with my chest opened up than I do here, where the arch is kind of gone, and maybe I'm a little more caved in and the form just isn't as good. And I'm getting more range of motion on that second scenario, but maybe my chest development is better on the first one. And there's nuance to this too. I know the Larson press has been the rage recently. Feet up benching or leg up benching. Usually you can't get as big of an arch, but even in that scenario, maybe you can't fully arch, or maybe guys will make it even more difficult by eliminating the arch entirely just to get that extra range of motion. But a lot of times, even in that scenario, those guys with their experience to be able to do that properly already have years of experience doing bench press in the traditional fashion. So that's just something to keep in mind. A lot of times that type of lift is used just to limit the amount of weight on the bar for those really strong especially powerlifting guys, and honestly just experienced people in general. So just something to keep in mind there. I noticed when I didn't have as big of an idea of what an arch was, and I knew what it was, but I didn't really know how to open the chest up and make sure that that's what was working, meeting the bar when you're on the way down instead of just letting it touch or whatever, and especially not dumping the bar. I noticed that once I got that down, my shoulder stress got shot down as well. My shoulders were in a much better position. When I was a beginner, and this again could be because I was a beginner and I was just getting used to the lifts, but I noticed that, when it came to that, my shoulders would always be extremely sore the next day, and sometimes the joints themselves would feel kind of hurt. But I noticed as I've gotten more experience with it that has gone away. That now I rarely get that, and if I do get it, I know it's because I'm being an idiot. So that's just something to keep in mind with my experience on it. And all variations are great. You got your incline dumbbell press, which is another good one too. And you got, I call it kind of like the deficit bench press. It's, using the arch nemesis bar, helps you get a lot more range of motion for the chest. And that's another great lift as well. And the form for that isn't extremely different, but it does take a little bit of a learning curve, like any lift does, but especially for that. I would say for that, it's really good for just getting even more of a chest bias. If you're very good at keeping that chest up and, you have all your cues down, I've definitely have benefited from adding that arch nemesis bar press into the program. Just getting stronger on it just has strengthened that bottom end range where you have to get out of the bottom and press up. That's another thing to keep in mind. Sometimes little issues that you have in the lift are indicative of what problem you may have. So guys that have a hard time getting out of the bottom tend to have weaker chests as opposed to triceps and shoulders, and maybe they're using too much momentum when they're dropping down and pressing up, so they're never working that bottom range, and sometimes they don't even realize it. And then for guys that kind of stop at that midway point, maybe they're just losing a little bit of that tricep lockout strength. Just something to keep in mind there. So yeah, that's the bench press. Close grip, of course, is great too. More range of motion, and good range of motion too. Like you could still keep the arch and stuff going, and helps you hit the triceps a little bit harder because you're getting more of that elbow bend at the bottom. Great addition to any bench press program, especially if you want to change things up and make sure you're hitting all different kinds of joint angles. Definitely a good pick there. Yes. All right, so that was the first video, the bench press, of course. Let me know what you think in the comments and your experience with it, or if you're new to it, definitely let me know. And leave a like, comment, share, and subscribe if you did enjoy the video. And until next time, see you later.